Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, GITTEN Yud Ches. We are holding on Yud Zayin Amud Beis, right on the last line. Amalei Ravina L'Rav, I have a question for you. You know, yesterday we learned that the reason why we have a Zman in a get, there needs to be a date recorded on the get document, is to ensure that we know when the get was issued. For what purpose? So one of the reasons given, this was Rabbi Yechanan's pshat, mishum znus, because we're concerned perhaps about a Ashes ish interacting with another man as married, so we want to know when that occurred. And he can just say, well, the husband now can just try to protect his wife, who happens to be his niece, and he'll claim that she was already divorced when that Avera occurred, so she's, innocent in terms of the Ashes ish issue. So therefore we date the Zman on the get, and now we know when the divorce occurred, and this will indicate to us whether the znus occurred prior to divorce when she was a married woman or post-divorce. Here comes a question to Rava. Kasve. So suppose husband writes a get with today's date. Okay, so it's properly dated, but he procrastinates, he delays the delivery of that get. And he puts it in his pocket, in his pouch, puts it away. Just in case his wife becomes appeased, in case he settles things and he, avoids divorce, great. So basically, he's doing it as a backup plan. He's waiting on divorce. So what's the point of the Zman now? Meaning, the whole point of Zman and the get is to verify the time of divorce. Well, perhaps it was written days before the gerushin actually occurs. Amalei Rava responds to Ravina, it's an unlikely scenario. Why? Le'magdim inish. A person typically doesn't hurry up and bring upon himself something negative. He doesn't get himself into something bad, earlier than necessary. Personally, typically doesn't write a get in advance of a possible divorce. He needs it, he writes it, and when it's written, it's given right away. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, what do you mean? We know about those. What about those gittin that come from far away? Gittin aboim mimdina sayam. Those gittin that come from abroad. The michtvi benissen, they're actually written on Nisan. They only arrive Tishrei time, after that long journey. So once again, maha ilu chachamim takanasam. What's the point and benefit of the takanas chachamim to make a zman on a get when there could be a pretty major time, gap between the actual writing of the get and the nasinas get? Amar Le, he tells him, Hanu kala islu. The gittin that come from far away, it makes the news. It's an unusual situation, and therefore people pay attention. Oh, yeah, this get arrived today. Yeah, but it was written many months ago, and people basically pay attention to that, and will be able to tell us later on when the get was actually issued, when it was actually delivered and given. Here comes another discussion. Itma, we have learned. Me masai moinin leget. As we know, an isha must wait, a 3-month wait period between marriages to ensure proper identification of the children born, to know which one is from the first, which one is from the second. So an isha who underwent a divorce, when does the 3-month clock start ticking? Rav Amar Mishas Nasina, from when the get is handed over and she's free to remarry, we wait 3 months at that point. Ushmol Amar Mishas Ksiva, from the time of writing, after which she's really usher to be involved with her. It would become a get yashan. It would make problems. So typically, after the ksiva, they're sort of separated, and therefore you can begin counting that 3-month separation period at that point. Maskef lo Rav Nosson bar Hoshea l'Shmuel. So according to Shmuel, we're going to have a pretty interesting scenario. Yomru, people will say, Shtei noshim b'chatzar achas. You have two women living in the same, neighborhood, same chatzar, and they both received their get on the same day. So a person divorced both his wives on the same day. Rashi says he was traveling far away, he gave them both a get, and now in case something happens to him, they're free to remarry. But the thing is that the get that he gave to Rachel was written, 2 months before the get he gave to Leah. So we have an irony here. Two people in the same place, getting the get at the same time. Zu asura v'zu muteres. So this isha will be asur for another 3 months, and this one will be mutter after a very short time, 3 months after the ksiva, which creates a sort of a confusing situation. Amar lei, Abai responds, no confusion at all. It's pretty clear. Look at the zman of the get. Zu zman gittem achiach aleh. This woman's get features a zman, which indicates when her get was actually written, and likewise. The same thing with the other isha. So it's pretty clear cut why, their time frames are different. So once again, when do you start waiting 3 months? According to Shmuel, Shas Ksiva, according to Rav, Shas Nesina. Says the Gemara. Tanya, Kavasei the Rav. We have a brayso in support of Rav. It's all about when it's issued. Tanya, Kavasei the Shmuel. We have the same support to Shmuel as well. It's about when it was written. Tanya, Kavasei the Rav. Hashalech et li'ishtoi. So he sends a get to his wife. V'nishtohe shaliach b'derech kimo chadashim. And the messenger took his time getting there. It took 3 months till he arrived. As soon as the get arrives to the Isha, she begins her 3-month count. We'll get Yashin and Choshishin. Get Yashin is discussed later in Daf Ayin Tes. If a person was misyached with his wife after he wrote her a get, so between writing and delivering the get, there was yicha between them, we're concerned that perhaps they interacted as married and there'll be a child born, and people will think that the child was born after the get was already given, born from a stranger, and will create issues of yichus. So we don't allow this get to be used. In this case, says the Gemara, we're not concerned about a get yashin issue. In a case where he wrote it 3 months ago and it was, sort of taking its time getting here, because the husband was never here to be misachad with the isha, there's no issue of get yash. Bottom line, when do you begin the 3-month period? Moment of nesina. Tanaka will say to Shmuel that it's the ksiva that triggers the clock. Hamash lish get li'ishtoi. So this fellow handed the get to a third party so that he can give it to his wife after 3 months, and the husband skipped town. He left town. Va'amalei, he tells the shalish, the third party, al tatneila, only give it to her after 3 months. Allah chagim chadosh. Misha nosnoi la. So as soon as the messenger delivers the get to the isha after 3 months, muteres lenosam she can get married right away because her 3-month period is up. Will get yashin chashishin. Once again, there's no issue of get yashin. Sharei lo nisachat imam, because there was no yicha between the husband and wife. So what's the halacha l'mais? Rav Kahana, Rav Papi, Rav Ashi, they did of the mishas ksiva like Shmuel. Rav Papa, Rav Huna, Berei Darishua, of the mishas nesina, they worked with nesina like Rav. What's the halacha? V'ilchasa is mishas ksiva. Itmar, here comes another question. Me'mosai ksuba mishametes. So we know that when Shemitah comes, all loans, all debts become uncollectibles. They sort of expire, right? But not a ksuba, not something which is mandated by the, bezdin. It's called a masa bezdin. It's not a debt. It's not a loan. It's a formal chiyuv that a person is chayiv because the Torah obligates it. And therefore, Shemitah does not undo that. It doesn't cancel that chayv. So when an isha has a ksuba claim on her husband, when do we say that the ksuba claim sort of gets transformed, gets converted, and is viewed as a regular debt? When does that happen? Not typically, but it can happen. Rab Amar B'Shativ Kaim B'Tizkaif. Once the Isa is pagam, once she starts collecting a bit, she was divorced and she's starting to collect a bit, like pagam, to chip off a bit. So she took part of the ksuba claim. B'Tizkaif, and she goes and opens a file in the Bezdin, opens a case against her husband or former husband. That process of A, having collected part of it, which turns it into a collectible, and B, going into Bezdin and making it into a personal claim, rather than just a Torah mandated chiyuv, that allows it to be relabeled as a regular debt, in which case Shemitah can cancel that. Ushmuel Amar, you don't need both aspects. Pagmai, avapishaloi zakfa, collecting a bit turns it into a collectible, even without zakfa, without going to Bezdin. And the same in the reverse, zakfa. She went to Bezdin and turned it into a personal claim. Avapishaloi pagmai, even without collecting a bit, it is now considered a chayv, and if Shemitah comes along, it is mishamit. So according to Rav, both Pegima and Zakifa are required. According to Shmuel, one is enough. Tanya Kavasei the Rav, Tanya Kavasei the Shmuel, we have a raya to each one from a brisa. Tanya Kavasei the Rav. That you need both aspects. At what point can Shemitah be mishamit? The Chiv Ksuba, Mishativka vit his kaiv. But one is not enough. Pagma v'loi zakfa, or the other way, zakfa v'loi pagma, Eina mishamita, Shemitah will not affect it, Ashativka vit his kaiv. That's a right to Rav. Tanya Kavasei the Shmuel, either one is enough. So the Brisa begins. Oinas, if a person interacted with an Isha forcefully, uknas, this is the penalty that the Bezdin penalizes the husband for bad-mouthing his wife, Meitzishemra, upitoy, a person convinced an Isha to be with him. All these are monetary payments mandated by the Torah as a punishment. These aren't loans or debts that Shemitah can cancel. And likewise, uksubas Isha, the monetary payment owed by a husband to his wife upon divorce or death, shazak from b'muva. So in all these cases, if the claimant, the party who was claiming this money, went to Bezdin and turned into a chayv, he opened up a case and he claimed it, mishamten, now when Shemitah comes along, it can affect it, because it was converted into a chayv. Vim lavein mishamten, otherwise, Shemitah has no effect on it. How do we actualize the zakfa process? What does that mean? Once we go to Bezdin and we open a case and we direct our claim against the claimant, then it's considered a chayv and Shemitah affects it. That's a right to Shmuel. Amar Shmuel. Okay, now getting back to the concept of Zman, but related to Ksuba and related to Shmuel, and related to the fact that Ksuba isn't your typical Chiyav, it's a Masa Bezdin, mandated by Bezdin, right? So Amar Shmuel, Ksuba Kamasa Bezdin Dami. We treat the Ksuba document in which the husband commits himself to his wife regarding all the marriage commitments, we treat it like a formal Bezdin document. Kamasa Bezdin Dami. Rashi says, because it's a Tanai Bezdin. Even if a person doesn't personally commit, it's committed, because it's just built into the system. You get married, you chayiv iksuba. And therefore, says Shmuel, let's compare it to a Masa Bezdin. Masa Bezdin, just like a Masa Bezdin, which basically means like this. Rashi says, suppose Bezdin issued a verdict that Reuben has to pay Shimon X amount. It's called a Masa Bezdin. So even if they sit down, they write a document, sort of a court record, but ultimately, what's his chiyuv based on? The record, the document that's being written? No, it's just a document of record. The chiyuv is because Bezdin issued that psak din, right? So just like by the Masa Bezdin, Masa Bezdin nichtaven b'yayim, nichtaven b'layla. Although typically, we want the chasima of any document to take place on the same day of the ksiva, so that it's consistent with the date on the ksiva, but not by the masa bezin, with the shtar, the document, the record of the court record isn't really the one isn't the thing that's making you chayev. And therefore you can write it during daytime and sign it the following night. Because the chiv is what bezin applied to you, which happened by day. It wasn't the shtar per se that's triggering the chiv. Av ksuba, the same with the ksuba, between husband and wife. You don't have to be particular about when you sign it. Nechtavas b'yayim, nechtavas b'layla. You can actually write it today, because, as Rashi says, she was now, she experienced the chuppah and the closeness of marriage. At that point, says Rashi, the shibud is chal. It activates the commitment, even though it wasn't signed yet. And therefore you can take your time signing it even the following night, because it's not considered predated, because the chiyuv was activated at the ksiva, at the chuppah, irrespective of the chasima being there or not. Says the Gemara, Ksub say the Rabbi Chia Barav, the Ksub of Rabbi Chia, the son of Rav, had this occurring to it. Ichtav b'yayim, ichtav malayla. It was written on Tuesday, and it was signed Tuesday night. Hava Rav Hassam, so the father Rav was of course present. He didn't have any comments about it. He was okay with it. Do you mean to say that Rav holds like Shmuel in this instance? There's no issue of a predated ksuba? Not necessarily. You know why? Asukin ba'isa inyan havu. Here it was different. It was a wedding scene, there was the chuppah, there was the kabbalas panim, there was the ksuba written, and they were just carrying on with the same topic. It was one sort of long event, starting by day, going into the night when the ksuba was finally signed during nighttime. In that case, all would agree that it's okay, even if it's a shtar chayiv, it's a regular loan document, not a ksuba issue, nothing special. It would still be okay. You know why? Because everybody sort of relates to this man ksiba. Even though the ksiba was during daylight and the signing was only at night, but they look at it as one continuous experience, one continuous uninterrupted event. So the chasim of the Edom at night was just sort of a conclusion of a process which had begun during daylight, during daytime, and therefore, the koil, so to speak, Rashi says the koil relates to the Zman Ksiba. People will say, well, yeah, he borrowed the money, by a shtar chayiv. He borrowed it on Tuesday by day. The Chsim only happened that night. They don't relate to that. They relate back to the beginning of the event because it was one long continuous event. So it's not called a predated shtar. So certainly by the Ksuba, there wouldn't be an issue either. Since it was one uninterrupted event starting by the into the night, the shibud relates back to the beginning. So asukin ba'isa inyan havu. The sound Amar Blazer or Tzaddik Leishana. When do we say that a predated shtar is a problem? Elok she'ein asukin ba'isa inyan, when it was written now and signed a different time with anything without anything linking the two events. They weren't, continuing and being involved in the same event. Aval asukin ba'isa inyan. But if they were immersed in the inyan continuously from the Zman Ksiba all the way to the Zman Chasima Kasher, then it's fine even if it was signed at night. Now, Lachal regarding a ksuba, many people are makbid to try to have the ksuba written and signed and the chuppah all at the same time, meaning either by day or both at night, rather than having the ksuba written by day and the chuppah only taking place at night. But actually, Tosfos discusses this point right here, and he says certainly if there was a kinyan during the ksiva. So that go to chassan, give him a handkerchief, do the kinyan siddur to commit him to whatever is in the ksuba, that wouldn't be an issue when the chuppah happened, because he was already committed at the point of ksiba, so it's properly dated. But listen to this. But nowadays, says Rav Moshe Feinstein, it's very different, because you see Rashi says that there was a shibud now because there was already the chuppah, so there was a shibud now. B'shas the ksiva by day. Antaisis says okay, but the kinyan, can do the same thing if there's a kinyan. But let's keep in mind that in those days, they were holding already past phase 1. There was Kiddushin months ago. This is only phase 2 that they're doing. She's already Mekudesh, says Rav Moshe Feinstein. Then it makes sense that he'll commit to her through a kinyan, etc., even prior to the chasima. But nowadays, where she's a total stranger, we do the Kiddushin and Nisun all together under the chuppah. So at this early point, during the Kabbalas Panim, when they're writing the Ksuba and so, there's nothing between them. There's no. It's way too early in the game. It's premature. There's no room for commitment. The marital process hasn't even begun yet, and therefore Moshe says it should be avoided. Yerushalayim Zalman Auerbach feels the same way. He says it's appropriate for the Aiden to sign, at night on a ksuba with yesterday's date. But others, Shlomo Miller Shlita, the Rosh Kohen here in Toronto, he held that it's not a thing that you really have to worry about. He calls the Sheil Meshiv who disagrees. So a big tumult, and I guess if it's pertinent, everybody asks their local rabbi. Okay, continues the Gemara. Reb Shimon Machshir. Let's say we have a get written Tuesday, signed Tuesday night. Reb Shimon says it's okay, even though it was predated. Amar Rav Amai time of Reb Shimon. Why is it okay according to Reb Shimon? Because Reb Shimon holds Kivish Nasan Elal Inad Legorsh. Remember, we said that according to Reb Shimon, the reason for Zman and a get is so that we know when he divorced her, past which the husband can't take the produce of her properties. But, says Reb Shimon holds that he's not entitled to the peiros from the moment of Nasan Ein of Legarsha, at the moment that he decides to divorce her. Certainly, the moment of Ksiva qualifies as Nasan Ein of Legarsha. He loses his privilege, he loses his right, he loses his entitlement. So it's fine that the get is predated. Let him stop eating peiros from the time of Ksiva, from the time of the Zman. But you're meant to know there's a limit to how far we can stretch the chasima from the ksiva. It's only okay if they signed it, pretty close to the ksiva. But if it's 10 days later, it's no good. Why? We're concerned that perhaps in between the husband appeased his wife, and things calmed down, and he was with her, and there was a yichud, and then the get becomes a get yasha. Interesting. Some actually mentioned that the shir of Asor Yamim is very accurate because that's the Asor Yamim Hashem gives us to tshuva. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we find by Novel Hashem gave him 10 days to think it over. It's a time where it's a time span in which a person is expected to think things over and perhaps change his mind. So that much of a gap is too much. Perhaps there was a change of heart which invalidates the get. That's Rish Lakish's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Afilu Mekan Vat Asura Yamim. There's no issue even if it's 10 days later. It means that the PAs, if he would have appeased her, Kala is like Leila Milsa, there would be a koil. Everybody would know about it. Rashi says on the top line, Kala is Leila Milsa. Listen to Rashi. Ashchenim, Ashchenas, the neighbors. Everybody knows what's going on. Shaimin, Tagar, Ktata, Sheben Ishla Ishta. Everybody knows what's going on next door. They're on the verge of divorce. When things quiet down, there's a deafening silence, and everybody knows about it. So there's no concern of PAs, because otherwise people would know about it. Itmar, here comes another interesting discussion. Amar la asara. A husband turns to 10 people. Kiss for get ishti. Please write a get for my wife. 10 people. Amar b'yechanan. They all need to sign. Shnayim mishum edim. 2 of the 10 are considered valid edim, and they have to be kosher edim. V'kulam mishum tnai. The other 8, they're just there for the show. It's a condition that the husband imposed on them. Rashi says he wants to embarrass his wife, wants to become a public spectacle, but they're not really legally edim. They're just on the get to fulfill that unreasonable, unfair, silly condition. No, all 10 are considered proper edim. That's what he meant. They should all conform as edim. Hey Chidami, what exactly happened? What words did the husband use when he instructed these 10 people? Lehu kulchem. Did he skip the word kulchem? Did he just say kisvu get liishti? Well, in that case, they don't all need to sign. But now we have a Mishnah. Amala Sora kisvu get liishti. He turns to 10. He says, write a get for my wife. All he meant was, all of you, 10 of you, look after the get. He didn't mean the get has to have all text signatures. No. Echad kosev, shnayim choismim. One writes and 2 sign. That's it. So without kulchem, we don't need more than 2 at all. Elo damalu kulchem. Oh, we're speaking that he told them, all you get involved and write the get. Rabbi Yehuda says, only 2 are considered Edom, the rest are Tanai. Rish Lakish considers them all Edom. My benayu, any halachic difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rish Lakish? Very simple. We have 2 differences. So let's say 2 Edom signed on that day, on the day of the Ksiva, and the other 8, took their time between now and 10 days from now. So it's off dated in terms of them. So Madam Rabbi Shem T'nai Kosher. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the other 8 are just there, to fill the blanks. So it doesn't matter. They signed later. Madam Rabbi Shem Edom Pasal contra Rish Lakish are considered proper Edom, and they have to be signed on that same day of the Ksiva, and therefore they're Pasal in this case. Inami another nafkamina. So one of the individuals was discovered as a relative or unfit for Eidos. So according to the Shita, that's just a Tanai, then no, you don't need a kosher Eidim. But if you consider them to be Eidim, they have to qualify. Now, let's assume Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. 2 are considered Eidim, the rest are Tanai. However, let's say Ichosam Betchila, Karav Apostle. Let's say on the first 2 blanks, the first 2 spaces, it was a Karav Apostle. What happens now? Amrila kosher, some say it's considered kosher. Amrila pasul, some say it's pasul. So speaking that ultimately we have at least 2 proper Edom on the get, but the first 2 slots were taken, or one of the first 2 slots were taken by unqualifying individual. So some say it's okay because we have 2 proper Edom somewhere in the shtar, and some say it's no good. Amrila kosher, Amrila pasul. Why? Amrila kosher, Tanayu. The 8 are just there to fulfill the Tanai. As long as you have 2 kosher, you're okay. Doesn't matter where in the shtar. Amr l'pasal, some disagree, because asir lechlufe, b'shtar is the Amma. Because, the onlooker will see, look, I'm assuming, the first 2 are the real Edom, and the rest are just, supplemental. And the first 2, oh, look there, we have a pasal, we have a karev. So think that you can use such an aid. So as the more there was a story as such. Hahu da amar lula asar, this fellow turns to 10 people, and he says, kisvu get liishti, Rashi says, kulchem, he added the word kulchem. I want everybody to be involved. Chasam beitrei minai b'yamei. So ultimately 2 people signed on that day, on the day of the Ksiva, properly. B'inach mekan atzar yamim. And the other 8 signed, took their time the next couple of days. Asal kamed Rishon Levi. So he comes to Rishon Levi with the Shaila. Is this get kosher or not? Amrullah, he says, look. Remember, Reb Shimon in the Mishnah holds that you can even sign the next night, right? K'dayu Reb Shimon lismachalav b'shas atchak, in a time of hardship, of tchak. We rely on Reb Shimon, and Rashi says what happened was his husband left town, or she already remarried with this get, and now it's sort of a time of the chak, time of need. Let's rely on Reb Shimon, that even chasima later on works. Says the Gemara, 1 second. This wasn't just that night. This was way later. Doesn't Rish Lakish tell us? Reb Shimon is only matter when the chasima took place pretty close by to the ksiva. But if it was 10 days later, lie. That's what happened here. Look, the Gemara, Bahid Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, Rishon Levi who paskin that it's fine. In that question, in that discussion, which was actually the top of Yitches and Beis, who concerned is Mefayis, was he not Mefayis, in that 10-day period. In that sense, he was like Rabbi Yehuda. We're not concerned; it would be a koil, it would be known, and we're not concerned that he had change of heart. And therefore, the get is kosher. 1 second, if you're following Rabbi Yehuda, it's not going to work either. The pieces of the puzzle are not going to fit. Rabbi Yehuda told us a minute ago that in this very case of Kulchem Kisvu Get Li'ishtei, Shnayim Mishum Edim, V'Kulan Mishum Tanayim. Only two are considered proper Edim, the rest are just, supplemental. So, why does Reb Shimon Levi have to sort of rely on Reb Shimon, B'Shas Adchak, because it's a Get Mugdam? It's not a Mugdam at all, because two signed on that day properly, that's all you need. The rest are just supplemental. Oh, but he, Krish Lakish Svirle, well, in that sense, he held like Rish Lakish, that all 10 are considered proper Edim, and therefore when some of them signed later, it's problematic. But if we follow Reb Shimon B'Shas Adchak, we're safe and sound. Okay, so we discussed the concept of Zman Begitten. We had a question, what if he delays the Nesina? Then the Zman will be off. The answer is a person wouldn't do that, wouldn't write the get today and give it later on. What about Gittin that are delivered from far away? People realize that there's a discrepancy between the Ksiva and the Nesina. They'll keep that in mind. Anisha waits 3 months between marriages. The 3-month wait period starts at what point? By Machlekes, Ksiva or Nesina, we pass on Ksiva. At what point is Shemitah going to interfere with the Chayv of the Ksuva? Rav says Tiz Kaif v'Tiv Gaim. Shmuel says one or the other. We had a discussion regarding a Ksuva written by day and signed at night. According to Shmuel, it's okay. Certainly if it's a Sukkim by Inyan, because that would be okay by any shtar. Reb Shimon in the Mishnah says even a get signed later on is okay. What about 10 days later? Machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, whether we're Chosher Shem Pies, a fellow instructs 10 people. Kulchem Kisvu Get Li'ishtei, all have to sign. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they're all considered Edim, they have to be kosher, they have to sign on that day. According to Shlokish, only 2 are proper Edim, the rest are just Tanai. We have the story. Kedai Hu Reb Shimon Lismach Allah B'Shas Adchak. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.